Since stepped into this role in 2022, I myself have seen a mix of encouraging progress and also some tough realities. The world has been facing a really challenging backdrop. You name it, conflicts, climate crisis, and the economic instabilities. I would say that despite all of that, there has been a very strong commitment by all stakeholders to the 2030 agenda. They are real signs of the progress. Let me just give you a few examples. For today, over half of the global population has access to some form of the social protection. More than 90% of the people worldwide now have electricity. Internet access has jumped by about 70% since 2015. We are also seeing more girls completing their schooling. Gender gaps in education continue to narrow worldwide. These are not just numbers. They are real people whose lives are changing for the better. At the same time, perhaps not as visible as we anticipated, are the efforts on the means to achieve the SDGs. Science, technology, and innovation have become central to how countries approach development. And this is particularly important for countries often left behind, like the small island developing states and the least developed countries. The other thing that I want to highlight is on financing side. There is a growing recognition that the developing countries need better access to long-term affordable financing. This is something that we addressed in the recently held the fourth International Conference on Financing for Development. We have also put a big focus on the capacity building. My department, UNDESA, has helped more than 90 countries with the customized support to achieve the SDGs. Tools like the UN Data Commons are giving governments better ways to track the progress and make the faster, smarter decisions. Well, that said, we also have to be very honest. The progress isn't where it needs to be. Only about a third of the SDG targets are on track to be met by 2030. And more than 18% are actually moving in the wrong direction. That should be a wake-up call for a lot of this. The hopeful part is we know what works. We have seen the progress in places where there's a strong leadership, smart investment, and real inclusion. So, put a short, the road ahead is steep, but the 2030 agenda, in my conviction, is very much achievable if we act with the sense of the urgency and if we do it together.
Now, the financing conference that you talked about, and we looked at the outcomes there, how can those outcomes help developing nations who are still struggling with financial challenges?
You are right. Global community came together to Seville with the common objective to renew the global financing for development framework. Well, from rising debt and falling investment to shrinking aid, the current system doesn't fit for the purpose. That's the common agreement or common conclusions by almost all the member states and other stakeholders. So we believe the FFD4 actually provided a very strong opportunity to change the course. It was a chance to mobilize finance and reform the rules of the system to put the people's needs at the center. You may witness the discussions in Seville a couple of months ago. The outcome document, we call it the Seville Commitment, adopted by consensus, actually contains a very strong package of the important actions. Those actions include catalyzing investment to close the $4 trillion SDG financing gap. The commitment also calls for tripling MDB lending capacity, increasing domestic resource mobilization, and leveraging private finance. The outcome calls for addressing debt pressure. That is a very common challenge for almost all the developing countries. The actions include, through a new debt facility at a multilateral institution to lower the cost of the borrowing. And it also calls for reforming the international financial architecture and increasing access to emergency funding to better protect the countries during the shocks. The outcome document commits to enhance developing countries' voices in international financial institutions, to reform the governance at the international financial institutions like the World Bank and the IMF.
Now, you will serve as the Conference Secretary General at the Second World Summit for Social Development. That'll take place in Doha, in Qatar, in November. What are your expectations for that conference?
Well, I see the summit as a pivotal moment for the social development and the global community. That's also the reflection from the entire membership. We have made undeniable progress since Copenhagen summit 30 years ago. Poverty has declined and global wealth has grown. But the reality is, too many people are still being left behind. Millions still live in multidimensional poverty, lack of social protection coverage, or have no access to quality education and decent work. Then there are new and growing challenges, very alarmingly, like the digital divide, demographic shifts, and the impacts of the climate change, very severe on those vulnerable countries. The summit in Doha is our opportunity to reset and refocus global and national development efforts towards a people-centered approach. It's also an opportunity to forge stronger partnerships, as well as to build more inclusive institutions that accelerate progress. The summit, in my view, must be a moment where we ensure that those most affected stand to benefit and have the real voice in shaping the solutions. This, of course, includes women, youth, older persons, persons with disabilities, and indigenous peoples. It has to be a catalyst for the future that works for everyone, as we committed to leave no one behind.